Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. If you do not have a prayer book, you need one. So if you don't need a prayer book, just wave your hand and somebody who knows where they are will get you one. We will be using the screen for readings this evening, but our prayers, our liturgy will be in the prayer books. That's why you need the prayer books. So we will begin, as we always do, with good things, wonderful things that have happened in our lives in the last week. I see your hand, Herb. I'm coming to you. Don't worry. Dale.
My brother-in-law, Cantor Thomas Schwartz, turned 88 on Thursday.
Congratulations to him. Happy birthday to him. 88 years young. Wonderful. David. But Andrea is not old enough to have been married 51 years. Well, happy birthday and happy anniversary as well, which we'll celebrate your anniversary also next week, because it'll be in the next week. But we'll say it twice. Anybody over here? Yes? Cookie's waving. Hi, Cookie. Nice to see you. Judy? 3 weeks old. Man, the time flies by, doesn't it? You'll blink your eyes and she'll be 18. Danica. Saturday. No, it was Sunday. You were right. So the good news here is that she's finally had her first father-Abba-daughter date night. She's been waiting for years. She finally had her first one. And it happened to be the same first one I took her older sister on 8 or so years ago. You have something to tell us in the back? No, you just want to wave your hand and hello? Hi. Yes? You turned 10 on Wednesday? Well, happy birthday. Oh, this coming Wednesday, you'll be 10. Well, happy early birthday. That's what I said. On Wednesday, she turns 10. Well, happy early birthday. Yes? Are we celebrating that, Bill? Or are we staying off of the roads, Bill? Where does he live? Oh, okay, so we can celebrate that. His grandson got his driver's license. Are you really raising your hand in the back? You really have something you want to say? What you got? 4 years old. You don't look a day older than 2. Okay, Herb, you've been waiting so patiently. You're going to be 10? I think your shirts are 10. And they're leaving tomorrow. We're not celebrating that. Well, did you have a fun time visiting? That's the most important part. Well, welcome, and we'll see you next time you come, I guess. We will begin this evening with the singing of Maya Fehayom, which is on page 10. So please open up your books and join me. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Bless you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And now we look to the screen. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. General Orders Number 3, Headquarters of the District of Texas, Galveston, June 19th, 1865. It's coming. Don't worry. Thank you. Today is June 21st, and as part of our service, we will be celebrating Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865. A day that commemorates and celebrates the final emancipation of slaves in the United States, taking place in Galveston, Texas. Tonight's service will focus on the voices of slavery from the African American history as well as from Jewish history, as our community also has a history of pain and struggle. The intention is to celebrate freedom while recognizing we have a long road still ahead of us in this struggle for justice for all people. And now I'd like to invite my wife and daughter, Bacha and Danica, to light our Shabbat candles on page 2 in your prayer books. You have a microphone.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
And now we continue with the singing of Shalom Aleichem, which is on page 24.
Shalom
Page 26, please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah B'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam u'lol me'almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, ve'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudesha brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, Amen. After surviving Theresienstadt concentration camp, Alice Hertz Sommer lived for 40 years in Israel before migrating to London. At the time of her death, when she was 110, she was the world's oldest known Holocaust survivor. She was a fantastically talented pianist and music teacher. Regarding her time at Theresienstadt, she said, "Music was our way of remembering our inner selves, our values. Music was our food. When we can play, it can't be so terrible." The music. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer, if you're a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in. Let us continue with our call to worship. Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue with the Ma'ariv Aravim on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvidvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzivaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. We continue with the singing of Ahavat Olam on page 32.
To
For the very first time in my entire life as a half-black, half-white member of the Jewish community, I have begun owning my identities. Listen, hear, understand. God is our protection. We are God's people. We were not the first, but we were the first to recognize God's oneness. Abraham understood. Abraham heard. Abraham listened. We connect ourselves to God in different ways and for different reasons. God is our help, but God needs us too. The children teach us to hear while we teach the children to listen. God is one. God is ours. God is here. Anger, fear, frustration, confusion, gratefulness, courage, satisfaction, knowing, disenchantment, hindrance, burden, hurdle, inspiration. Yes, inspiration. God is our inspiration in bad times and in great times. Let us be reminded of God as we sing the most important words, the most inspirational words. Please rise for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue with the Ve'ahavta, page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. We read in the Haggadah that in every generation we are commanded to see ourselves as one leaving Egypt. This is because slavery wears a different cloak in different generations. And we have to see ourselves, see it for ourselves, and understand it in order to help those who are currently stuck in its grasp. We continue with the singing of Michamocha, page 40. I've always found comfort in the and of my identity. That simple part of speech that joins together two disparate things, two families, two histories, two cultures, two heritages, two skin colors, two lineages of trauma, two pathways to North America. Close your eyes and just breathe. Take a moment and imagine lying down on a cloud. Imagine the softness and calm of the moment. God places a warm blanket over you for safety and comfort. All of the cares just melt away. Our tears are no longer. Our fears are all gone. What we have left is serenity. Imagine the sense of peace in your mind. God shields you and supports your whole being. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim u'l'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu, page 42. The message of Passover remains as powerful as ever. Freedom is won not on the battlefield, but in the classroom and the home. Teach your children the history of freedom if you want them never to lose it. Please rise, turn to page 46 for the Amidah. Adonai, sefaitai tiftach, ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel chasadim tovim, vekonei hakol, vezocher chastei avot ve'imahot, umevi geula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatol, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. So mech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umi melach, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yihalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. We continue on page 55. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied. Dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue on page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We continue on page 60 as we sing the words, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atah melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol et uvechol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. You know, I see people sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes more than that. Of course, my family is the exception. And oftentimes, for the people who I see only once a week, I see them on Friday, and I see them around 6 or 6:15 or 6:30. And oftentimes, I'm greeted by, "It's been a hard week, Rabbi. It's been a long week, Rabbi." And I say the same thing every time. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But now it's time for Shabbat, so you can relax and not think about all those things that happened before." Truthfully, though, if you picked up the phone and called me on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, now I know I could do the same to you, but there are a lot more of you than there are of me. And you called me on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, maybe when I see you on Friday, it won't be as busy of a week because you've had a chance to talk to me before then. Not to say that I'm going to make all your problems go away, but I like to loosen the tightness a little bit. So if you're having a rough Monday, I may not answer the phone if you call me Monday. It's my day off. But if you call me like multiple times, I'll probably respond. Don't get any ideas, Herb. If you call me on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and you just want to chat, I'm there. I'm yours. I'm there for you. Not just when you're in a hospital or when you're in a rehab center. All the time. If you need, just call. But now, we come to the part in our service where we get to close our eyes for a minute or so and have our own conversations, have our own thoughts with God. Take some moments now for your own silent meditations. Page 62, Yehu L'Ratzon. Don't take the burdens of the world's problems upon yourself. Don't ignore them either. As Rabbi Tarfon from the first century put it, the work is not upon you to complete, but neither are you exempt from trying. Today I wash my hands and begin again. Today my body goes from one place to another. Today I undertake spiritual growth. Today I move from incomplete to complete again. Oh God, help me to refresh my intentions. Oh God, help me to strengthen my resolve. Oh God, help me to learn spirituality again. Oh God, help me become whole again. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of my strength and renewal. We come in our service now to the moment where we think of all of those in our community who are in need of healing, whether it be mind, body, or spirit. If there is a name that was not included in the list that went out with our announcements yesterday that you'd like to add to our prayers of healing this Shabbat, please raise your hand. I caught her on my list. She was on the list on Thursday night, but she will be next week, but she's on my list. But we can say her name as many times as we need to. We join together. If you'd like to follow along with the words, it's on page 2. They're on page 253 in your prayer book.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
While I was preparing for this week's sermon, I found a resource that had been shared with me years ago by my colleague and friend, Rabbi Marina Tektil. It is an elementary worksheet with questions and answers pertaining to this week's Parsha, Parshat Bahalotcha. These sources were written for Kehilat Ahavat Zion in Israel. On the bottom of this worksheet, there is a section for discussion. This is what I would like to focus on next this evening. And the people were as murmurers, speaking evil in the ears of the Lord. And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled. And the fire of the Lord burnt among them and devoured in the uttermost part of the camp. And the people cried unto Moshe, and Moshe prayed unto the Lord, and the fire abated. So the question is, why did Moses wait to pray until the nation cried to him instead of praying immediately? Because Moses' house was in Levite camp, which is in the center of the camp. The people that died were at the edge of the camp. It seems that Moses didn't know about the outbreak of fire until they cried out to him. So, why is it important to ask that question? Would God not have known what was going on? After all, God was the one that caused the fire to begin with. Because Moses did not know. He was in the center of the camp and unaware what was going on in the outskirts of the camp. It is not that Moses did not want to help the people, even though he was probably pretty annoyed or even angry at the people for their constant complaining. No, he loved the people. Even in his most angry or annoyed moments with the people, they were like his children. He acted on their behalf. He fell on his face. It's quiet now, guys. It won't be in a moment. God depended on the leadership of Moses. Even when punishments were being enacted on the Israelites, like the fire that affected the outskirts in this week's Parsha. So why do we focus on this particular aspect of the story? What does it have to do with us today? That's not a question for you to answer, Barbara. Although you probably would get the answer right. This week we celebrated Juneteenth. Although Juneteenth occurred more than 3,000 years after this story in our sacred Torah, we find something very similar between these two dates. Just as Moses was unaware of the Israelites on the outskirts of camp, the slaves in Texas were unaware of their freedom until months after the war ended and years after the proclamation was first said. Unlike Moses, who was unaware of the fire affecting the Israelites, we can assume the slave owners in Texas were aware of the freedom granted to their slaves, and they chose to ignore this new freedom until the slaves became aware much later, when 2,000 federal soldiers arrived in Galveston and delivered General Orders Number 3. It was on June 19, 1865, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, that the slaves in Texas were finally granted their freedom. And by the way, most people think that that's at the time in our country when slavery ended. That's not true. That's only when the slavery in the slave states ended, Confederate states. It was not until the 13th Amendment was ratified on December 6, 1865, when slavery was completely outlawed in the United States. There remained, until December 6, legally enslaved people in states that had not seceded from the Union. Think about that for a minute. After the Confederacy lost, there were still slaves. Also in our service this evening were several readings regarding the Holocaust. While we celebrate the final emancipation of the slaves of the Confederate States, we also remember the pain and struggle of those slaves and of the struggles of our own Jewish community as well. Without a doubt in my mind, I can tell you that we have come a long way in our journeys for freedom and acceptance of all peoples. We must also recognize we have a long ways to go in these journeys. From the time of Moses until today, humanity has struggled to find answers and solutions to all kinds of agony and distress. One of the readings tonight was from Mishnah Pirkei Avot 2:16. Hu haya omer, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ven chorin libatel mimena. Anyone who ever went to Jewish summer camp sang this song. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. Anyway, Rabbi Tarfon used to say, it is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. While traveling in the desert, Moses was completely overwhelmed time after time with the sheer amount of work he needed to accomplish. It wasn't until he realized he needed help, or he was told first by Jethro in Exodus and then by God in the book of Numbers, that he recognized the amount of damage he was causing. Moses needed to heed the words of Rabbi Tarfon, although they came thousands of years after Moses. Juneteenth did not become an official federal holiday until June 19th, 2021. 155 years after the first celebration, which was held in 1866. Of course, it had been commemorated and celebrated in communities throughout the United States, even if it was not an official federal holiday. I have to admit that I was unaware of the holiday until I was already in my late teens or early 20s. However, I find it incredibly important to recognize and celebrate as often as possible today. While millions of Jewish people and others were tortured and lived through hell in Europe in the 1930s and 1940s, there were Jews and others throughout the world who knew what was going on. And while many acted or spoke out against what was happening, there were many, including some world leaders, who refused to do anything to really affect what was going on, when there were some very easy things that could very well have been done. The phrase "never again" has become a sort of calling card today, especially within the Jewish community. We have a great responsibility to ensure we learn from the mistakes of the past. Through the readings of our service tonight and in my sermon, we took a look at three major events in history: the loss of life, or Moses' response in the desert, Juneteenth and its importance in our history, and the terrors of the Holocaust. The most important point to understand is our need to learn from these events and our own responses to these events. As we continue to move forward, let us remember the words of Rabbi Tarfon. It is not important for us to finish the work in the world, and yet we must not ignore it either. May we continue to work together to leave the world a better place for our children and our grandchildren. Shabbat Shalom. Well, our service continues on page 282, and we have a plethora of children this evening. So if you are below bar bat mitzvah age, I invite you to join me up here. And my children will not do it alone. They will show other people what to do, so they don't do it because they do it every week. Come on up. Come on, you too, Linksy. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Elliot and Sarah, come on. Herb will bring you up. Your grandpa will bring you up. No? All right. I'm not going to force them. Please rise for the Aleinu, page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר
Page 287.
V'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Beloved siblings striving for justice, Shema. Listen closely at all times. My prayer for you is that you remember protest as a sacred act. Just as the mourner's Kaddish helps souls ascend to God, may our cries soothe those whose lives were prematurely extinguished. This Shabbat, our congregation commemorates the death anniversaries, the yahrzeits of Alice Carol Dolane, sister-in-law of Stan Webman, Leona Kaplan, mother of Bruce Kaplan, Louise Adler, mother of Amy Schwartz, May Kane, mother of Arlene Goodman, Samuel Mannon, father of Susan Jarash, George Webman, brother of Stan Webman, Steve Nissan, uncle of Michael Kreuter, Lucille Schwartz, mother of Francine Askenaz, Eva Grossman, Leanne Levinson, sister of Bob Levinson and Grace Dunlevy, Talba Kreuter, grandmother of Michael Kreuter, and Mary Scott, mother-in-law of Marilyn T. Scott. If there is a name you'd like to add for our prayers of memory this Shabbat, please raise your hand. You want to say your husband's name, Cookie? We turn to page 294, and please rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brechu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for a blessing, as we say together, amen. Please be seated. And now, I'd like to invite Kay for her penultimate, her next to last time as the president of our congregation with some announcements.
Good Shabbos, everyone. It's good to see you. Just a few quick announcements. This time. I don't know. I've done it before. We're working on this year's yearbook, and I just want to remind you, a lot of people, I said this last week, in the yearbook, we can put, if you wish, your jewels, which are your children. We can put in your dividends, which are your grandchildren, and we also can list any memorials you want. It's $8 a person to be listed in the yearbook. Also, we really are going to take pictures. If nothing else, when I'm not present, I'm going to just start with my phone, because we want your pictures in this year's yearbook by your name and your address. July 13th is coming quickly, and Deborah Johnson is here. We're going to have a big dance, and tickets are $20, and please see her. Well, there's one place 15 and one place 20. What? 50?
It's $15 in advance and $20 at the door.
Anyway, they're $15. I'm hearing. Period. Buy them while they're on sale. Also in September we're going to have a big. It's Ocala Tree of Life art auction, and Marcelle Swimmer is chairing it. She needs some volunteers and for everybody to buy tickets. It should be a wonderful event. This week's Onyx Shabbat is sponsored again by an anonymous donor, and the Bema flowers are Naomi Berman in honor of Joan Brand's birthday. Happy birthday, Joan. Naomi Berman in honor of Carol Berman's birthday. Sisterhood in honor of Joan Brand's birthday. Michelle Kreuter in honor, Michael Kreuter in honor of his 63rd birthday. Michael Nusanov in honor of his 81st birthday. Andrea and David Caulfield in honor of their 51st anniversary and David's 72nd birthday. Happy birthday. Michael and Linda Kreuter in honor of their 40th anniversary, and Steve and Dale Silver in honor of their 59th anniversary. Wow, a lot of wonderful celebrations. Good Shabbos to all.
Thank you, Kay. So our closing song, we're going to have a benediction tonight, but our closing song are 3 verses from the song, We Shall Overcome. I believe everyone in this room has heard this song before. If you haven't, it's a very easy melody. You'll pick it up. Please join me. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Second verse, we'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. By the way, you have not heard that song really sung unless you've heard it from a person of African American that was marching at Selma with Dr. King, and you hear the passion in their voice. I hope that all of you get to hear it sung by one of those survivors, one of those people, heroes someday, because it's beautiful. Robert Small's incredible flight to freedom began in 1862 when he was working as a wheelman aboard the Confederate steamer CSS Planter in Charleston, South Carolina. When the Planter's white crew took an unauthorized shore leave in the early hours of May 13, Smalls and several accomplices sprang into action. After commandeering the ship, the slaves picked up their families at a rendezvous point and steamed into Charleston Harbor, with Smalls at the helm disguised in the captain's coat and hat. Smalls knew both the ship and the mine-infested harbor like the back of his hand. and he was able to give the proper signals to win safe passage by Fort Sumter. Once out of the Confederate guns' firing range, he poured on the speed and made a mad dash for the Union blockade. Arriving under the white flag of surrender, the crew of runaways joyously offered up their ship to first U.S. Navy vessel they encountered. "Good morning, sir," Smalls shouted back to the astonished captain. "I have brought you some of the old United States guns, sir." Smalls and his fellow escapees were hailed as heroes in the North, and their courage and cunning were held up as evidence that blacks could make good soldiers. Smalls later helped to recruit as many as 5,000 blacks for the Union war effort and served as the pilot and then later the captain of the Planter after it was refitted as a U.S. Navy vessel. After the war, he returned to South Carolina, bought his former master's house, and went on to serve several terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Shabbat Shalom. See you all in the social hall. Thank you, Naomi, for leading us in our Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.